Yes, there are still folks to come and join in here. Siddharth, can you confirm that? Or he himself is not here yet?
I'm sure he must be.
So I have
People back.
yeah, I have pushed all of us back to this room, so everyone would be joining.
Sure. So let's just give a minute.
In next 9 seconds, everyone would be pushed out of the breakout rooms.
Thank you, Deepti. I have changed my background.
It's a great one.
Thank you.
And hey, Deepti, I took the liberty of using one of the pics from Career Bootcamp as the background.
No, thanks for doing that. I was looking for one and, in a haste, I just picked up Agility Today. Thank you so much.
Hey Rahul, how are you?
Hey, Ashish, long time.
Yes,
Doing good. How are you?
doing good. Thank you.
So, Siddharth,
And
we are waiting for you to tell us when to go ahead.
Yeah, Siddharth.
Sorry, Rahul, you were saying something.
no, I was just saying good evening, good afternoon, as per the relevant geographies.
Prachi, I think let's get started.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so happy Sunday and welcome all of you to yet another day of Agile Career Bootcamp. And thanks, Deepti, for putting a great lineup of panelists together. And thank you all for making time and attending this panel discussion today. And of course, thanks, Deepti, for having me and making me part of this event. Really, really delighted about that.
Pleasure
So
all mine.
we have an excellent lineup. I cannot think of a better mix that could have been here for this panel discussion today. We see top-notch companies such as ThoughtWorks, we see Capgemini, right? We see USD Global, and also we see an excellent coverage in terms of rich experience that these folks bring in here today, right from technology to product to services and consulting, right? So I'll take it back to all the panelists today to probably give a quick introduction of, primarily what has been people's passion in this agile space and what has been their background in this agile space. So let's start with you, Rahul.
Absolutely. Thanks, Prachi. To everyone, yes, I'm Rahul. Been in this industry or joined this industry at the dawn of the millennium. So it's my 21st year overall. My experience, I've been predominantly working with service organizations and waded through different roles in my career, from being a developer to a tech lead to an architect to a project manager, program manager, and now I'm working as a delivery principal, and I'm responsible for overall delivery as well as client relationship management for a portfolio of products for a strategic client of ours at ThoughtWorks. I'm based out of Gurgaon location, and with respect to hiring, I've been involved with the hiring process for various organizations for probably the last 16 plus years of my career for various skills, various levels. And of course, I have moved through various organizations also in my career. So we're experiencing both sides of it. And yeah, on the personal side, married, 2 kids, settled in Gurgaon, love to work with people. And that's something what excites me to be part of this panel, and also looking forward to the discussion that we're going to have.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Rahul. Let's go ahead with you, Chirag. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, I'll probably go a bit slower this time than last. So, all right. I've been with Sapient for around 16 years now. My industry experience is close to 17, 18. So of course, most of it being with Sapient. I think similar to Rahul, have played a wide variety of roles. Rahul is also an ex-Sapient, by the way. So essentially started with technology, did quality assurance for a bit, then actually really liked working towards business. So I've been in financial services and commodities all throughout. So kind of have that industry acumen, apart from playing different roles. Last 5 to 7 years, I think just got opportunity to really drive some of the large scale agile transformations for a lot of financial services clients for Sapient. So that's currently been my focus the last few years.
Okay, thanks, Chirag, for that introduction. Can we have a few lines of introduction from you, Raj?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, and special thanks to Dipti. 23 years of business and IT consulting experience. As many of you grew up as a developer, was very fortunate way back in 2001. I was with IBM. We were trying to do our first Agile or Scrum project. I was the tech lead, so became the Scrum Master also along with that. Loved what Scrum has to offer. Became part of the Agile COE at IBM, moved to delivery role, did tech lead, architect stuff, did that for a few years, and then actually 13 years, and then moved to MIT, led their engineering department and also their enterprise agility. Moved to PwC, led their agile transformation practice in North America. Moved to Boston Consulting Group, led their agile transformation practice in North America. Now I'm with UST, leading their agile transformation practice globally.
Okay.
Very passionate because there's so much to learn, and very happy to be here to learn more this morning.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Raj, and thanks for joining us from across the continent, across some other corner of the world, literally. So
as always, we'll do anything for Dipti, right? So
that's great. Okay, so Vinaya, I'll request you to introduce yourself again to the larger group.
Sure. Thank you, Prachi. So hi, everyone. My name is Vinaya. I have about 18 plus years of industry experience now. I started out in IT as a developer, and I've played various delivery roles before I really found my passion in the whole coaching space. I started with the theory of constraints. We had a transformation going on and we were adopting theory of constraints. So that's where I started my coaching journey, and then moved on to Kanban. Large scale Kanban is something that I'm very passionate about. And eventually, the more mainstream sort of agile practices like Scrum, and I've dabbled in a lot of scaled up models like SAFe and disciplined agile and all that. But right now I'm doing something I really love at scale, which is a very framework agnostic approach to agility. And I'm doing that at Fiserv. I'm an enterprise agile coach at Fiserv, which is a large fintech. And, right now we are having so much fun with this approach where we are very, very context sensitive. We don't have any specific framework that we attach to. So yeah, it's really exciting times. And in terms of hiring, we are always on the lookout for very talented individuals, excited about contributing to this whole, product development space. So we always are hiring. And I'm sure if you check out our page, you'll find something that you'd love to do at Fiserv. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinaya. Would definitely love to hear more about framework agnostic approach to transformation. Sounds really, really interesting. So yes, Hrishikesh, you are the next one in line. Let's hear about your passion for agility.
Thank you. Okay, so thanks everyone for inviting me. So I'm Hrishikesh. I currently lead the Agile initiative, I would say, at Capgemini India across all of the BUs. So I have been, overall industry experience of about 20 plus years and been in the Agile space for more than 12 years now. I would not say I'm a fan of any particular framework or anything. And one thing I would like to highlight is I am not the typical agile coach that I am a coach with a very rich experience in project management. So it's a very difficult discussion with the coaches many times, because I would bring all of the hard questions that the typical project managers would bring to coaches, and that is how we solve real problems. So, and that is how I landed this role of leading the entire initiative at Capgemini, right? Asking difficult questions and then finding solutions to them is what I would say is my forte. I'm also part of the global Capgemini core team for Agile and DevOps. From an Agile perspective, one person I'm a big fan of is David Anderson, though he is not the most typical Agile name. It's Kanban, but yes, that is where my passion lies. So that's in short about me. And of course, as Capgemini, we are always hiring. I will share more insights once we proceed through this discussion.
Sure. Thanks, Hrishikesh. So I'll go next, and let's get into the groove of today's discussion soon after that. So my name is Prachi Saraph. I'm currently working as an expert agile coach with McKinsey. I'm working with their internal technology and digital division. So I like, so much variety in how most of the panelists got started with their career. I also started my career as a technologist, developing analytics, machine learning, data science based products with SAS Institute. And with that experience was my introduction to coaching and agile adoption. So last 4 to 5 years, I am exclusively focusing on organization, agility, enterprise-wide transformation. And specifically last 3 years, what has taken keen interest is coaching, leadership coaching, human process dynamics, organization development, diagnostic models, and behaviors in general. What's going on in people's head? How does it affect their way of showing up at work? So that's where I'm coming from. Really, really happy to be part of this Sunday evening discussion today. So, we would get started with certain set of questions. The progression that we are looking at is, let's understand some industry trends first. Let's understand some skills related trends first, and then we can go deeper into what is it that people are looking for when they are hiring different profiles under the agile skills umbrella, right? And I would request participants to post your questions on chat box, and every few minutes we'll go ahead and pick up some of them, and definitely we'll need Deepti's and Ashish's help to moderate through some of those questions and answers. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to pick up a person for a question. I would ideally like to hear all of your perspectives on all the questions, but we would like to do some justice with time also. So let's get started. The first thing I would like to understand quickly from all of you is what's the landscape of current opportunities and assignments that you see, along with those tough nuts to crack for which it's difficult to find the correct skill set. So maybe, a quick rapid fire to all of you for this question. What's the current landscape of opportunities and assignments that you see? And what are those skills which are really, really valuable and hard to find them?
Probably a quick one from the service industry's perspective. Data, as you see, has grown quite a bit in the last 3 to 4 years. And every organization, our clients, they just want to hop on to the bandwagon of AI, ML, be it deep learning, or so those skills, they're also getting developed in the market, especially in the last 3 years in particular. And since this hype has come so much, everybody, whether the AI ML solution is required or not for their problems, they just want to try it out, right? And what happens to us as service-driven organizations is that our clients reach out to us for skills like that, and this market is really developing and expanding. But so which means the demand is there, but the correct supply and the skills, there's still a paucity, in my opinion.
Okay, that's a good insight. And yes, totally with you. Maybe soon we'll have papers in some conferences on, AI, ML sort of projects using agile approaches. We have already seen some stats there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move on to maybe Hrishikesh, you for the
Yeah.
same
So
question.
I can add. So I think, yeah, AI ML, by the way, we already do that. I mean, many projects already are agile when it comes to AI ML as well. So from the hiring perspective, what I would say, if I can, restrict myself to the agile so-called market, right? I think there is a huge demand. One typical trend that we see is in each and every role. Example, even what was talked about is data. Agile is like the default skill that everybody is looking for. So agile trained workforce, right, is very important. And whatever role you do, you could be a team leader also, not really a Scrum Master always, or a developer, tester, automation engineer, data scientist, project manager. I think agile awareness and relevant skills for your job is very crucial. Right now, this is for everybody, but specifically for the agile, I see a lot of demand for Scrum Masters because so many organizations are moving. Agile coaches as well. While for the agile coaches, I would say that the demand is a bit different from what I would have been seeing 3-4 years ago. The demand for agile coaches now is more and more real agile coaches, not agile coaches who can only teach Scrum, right, or teach a methodology. Because now, example, when people come out of college, they already know agile, or we teach them in the first 3 months. So we don't need a coach to teach anybody Scrum or basics of agile or manifesto. They already know that. So coaches who can actually help some engagements to improve, right? Those are the ones where the demand really lies and who are more successful, right? So and enterprise coaches is always there, but these are skills very hard to find. So that would be my quick take on the hiring scene.
Yeah, great. Let's hear from you, Raj, and then from Chirag.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prachi. Really good question, right? So thanks, Rahul and Hrishikesh, completely aligned with your thought process. As far as the overall demand is concerned, it's huge. And I think it goes to every domain within the industry and also goes to every roles within the industry, right? I don't think Agile is separate than what do you do, right? Because Agile is all about culture and mindset.
Yeah.
That's one thing I would say. As far as the coaching needs are concerned, Prachi, where I'm focusing is the enterprise agility, organization design, and business agility. I think that's where I see a lot of demand. At the same time, a lot of constraints that people may or may not have that right level of experience in terms of the knowing how to coach a C-level. Second would be also to know exactly how to take an organization from small, medium, large to this new ways of working, right? Because transitioning is not easy in the leadership mind, but how do you work with them, build that relationship and influence that change is critical.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can go next. So I think very good points I think covered already. I think the way roles are shaping at Sapient, and we are hiring aggressively at Sapient for agile roles as well. A lot of the firms are. I think the onus has really shifted. Like earlier particularly about the agile space, rather than covering all domains, I would say we used to hire project managers. Right? Project managers either with a tech background or a non-tech background, right? But really people who could govern, who could control the scope, right? So mindset was very different, right? We had these fixed tech price engagements, and a good PM was one who used to, hold the scope matrix very closely to his or her heart, right? And ensure there are no scope creeps, right? Ensure the timelines are met. It's really changed now, right? Most of the work in the agile space is actually, you got to be close to the customer and prioritize almost in real time, right? So there's not a scope matrix that you're actually guarding, but you want to respond to change, right? You don't want to predict and plan. You rather want to sense and respond, right? So accordingly, with that mindset change and a change in way of working, the roles we are hiring are very, very hands-on, right? So the leaders are actually expected to be servant leaders, right? Can they? We've of course heard a lot about servant leadership, right? What that really means is somebody who's done it, who's hands-on, right? That should show through, right? You just don't want process jockeys. Of course, process is important, but at the end of the day,
yeah,
if you've played a hands-on role, can you remove obstacles out of the way, right? Can you enable your people to do best, right? Just lead by example, right? The idea is they should be able to demonstrate a lot of situational leadership, if you ask me, right? So
yeah, yeah.
getting hands-on when required, pulling up their own sleeves, and yeah, taking a back seat and coaching and mentoring during normal situations, right? Enabling potential.
Yeah.
So the roles we are really looking to hire are very similar: hands-on Scrum Master, product owners, as well as Agile coaches. So we're seeing a lot of demand across these three roles in particular.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Chirag. Vinaya, let's hear from you on this.
Sure. So again, I think a lot of what the earlier speakers said really resonated well with me. About the landscape, I would say we see similar to what some of the speakers said earlier. So AI, ML, RPA, data analytics, microservices, UI, UX, a lot of digitization going on. So, you know, and modernization of UX. So a lot of those skill sets are in demand. But, you know, focusing on the Agile space again, we see a big spike in demand for good product managers and product owners, especially in India. We are also seeing a good demand for coaches. And, you know, going back to what Rishi said, I think the kind of coaches we are looking to hire has really evolved in the last decade or so. We are no longer looking for people who simply teach. We are looking for people who have very solid coaching skills, bring the expertise of the Agile space, can really assess a situation and give, you know, the kind of coaching that is suitable for that situation, and have the ability to create enablement in the people that they're coaching, you know, creating advocates, enabling other people to, you know, act as Agile change agents, you know, that sort of thing. Those skill sets are really difficult. And now the space for organizational agility is also, you know, pretty front and center in terms of urgency. So we do need enterprise Agile coaches more and more. So our expectations from coaches that we're hiring now is drastically different from what I think was the expectation in the industry about 10 years ago. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks for all the insights. I think we heard some opportunities in terms of roles such as enterprise Agile coaches, the true Agile coaches that we heard, product managers, product owners, and Hrishikesh, Vinaya, even Raj, you also touched upon some competencies that are hard to distill and define, but you did talk about servant leadership, ability to influence, you know, being that true change agent, right? And being able to coach, first of all. So, you know, with that, I would like to move to slightly deeper, hearing slightly deeper insights from you all, okay? So, you know, there is a general understanding of what does the overall macro categories of skills look like. We talk about product, we talk about obviously process and Agile frameworks. We also talk about technology and working with team and people, at least 4 important pillars, right? So, you know, how is it that you would be mapping these skills to the ask or the need? What's the mix? And how much of this mix has to be already there and how much can be learned? How do you make that differentiation? So again, I'm taking you to the two more questions. For out of this product, people, technology, and process, how do you map the need to the skill set of a person, you know, a need of the project to skill set of a person, and how much really you think can be taught and learned and acquired versus how much has to be there when that person joins you? Can we start from you, Vinaya, this time?
Sure, we can do that. So I think this is a good question, and I think different roles probably will have different weightage for these 4 areas that you mentioned. So I think it really depends on the team that they're going to be working with, or the product group that they're. So Fiserv is a product company, so I'll tend to talk more about products, but the product group that they're working with. Now, some of our products are in places where the change management is where the focus is. And over there, especially for change agents, I think having really good skills in the people space, the process space, etc., is of immediate help. And eventually it will evolve into, pulling in more help in terms of the product and the tech space. But to begin with, the change is pretty disruptive for some of the roles. So, having change management skills over there, I would say there are other product groups which are a little advanced in their journey. And over there, they are feeling the need for more tech upgrades, skills in terms of, better engineering approaches, that sort of thing, having better infrastructure. So they've already reached a stage where now those real sort of hard, concrete changes need to happen for them to keep going on their journey. So I think there is a big mix over there. And over there, again, maybe I overemphasize it, but the context sensitivity is extremely important. Right. Because there is no one size fits all. There is no such thing as one size fits all. So that's one. And the other thing I would say is to your second question, I think skills can be taught. But hiring for attitude is where the real, skill for the interviewer probably lies.
So true.
Yeah, and I think it's we found it. I've had a couple of instances where we hired more for skill than attitude, and then we've really struggled with those cases. Can attitude also be shaped? Absolutely, yes. But it's a much longer investment and a longer term journey. Knowledge can be learned, skill sets can be built. But of course, when we're hiring from outside, there will be something that we look for in terms of knowledge and skill set already coming in. But attitude is absolutely key, because we find that it's very, very difficult to shape, even though it can be done. So,
thanks. That was so useful, Vinaya. So I would like Rahul, you to comment, since you represent the service as well as a stronger technology side, and can you respond to this question?
Yeah, I think one of the key aspects is nowadays that attributes-based hiring is the key. See, basically hiring, why does, for example, specifically a services organization hire? Typical, let's say, like the H1, H2, H3 horizon, right? You need hiring for continuing your business, whichever you're doing right now. You need hiring for upcoming technologies, or you need hiring for something disruptive that's going to keep you in business, right? Now, especially the H2, H3 kind of the hiring that I'm talking about, right? Horizons hiring. You cannot really define those. You cannot set them in concrete parameters. So if you cannot do that, then you need to be looking for attributes within a person. Now, for those attributes, when you're going for such things, always it's a combination of what skills the person has, what is the learnability, and how easily can the person adapt to the future needs of any organization, right? So
signs of agility that the person himself or herself exhibits.
Absolutely, we have to. For example, most of the panelists, right, we have careers spanning well over 2 decades. What was relevant when we joined the industry in terms of either the skills or the knowledge of technologies is not relevant at all. It has been constantly changing over that course of time. So if we don't have those attributes of collaboration, learnability, etc., we wouldn't have survived all this long in the organization and in the industry. And I feel this still holds good, will hold good for the future as well, right? So while you might typecast, stereotype certain hirings into a defined mold, but predominantly it's always in the good of the organization as well as the person to be more confident upon what skills he or she has, plus what does he or she aspire to do, and is there a match of that with the hiring organization? Because if you don't do that, you'll end up being a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, so that's a great insight again, and I like the part of the person being able to assess and map the individual aspiration where the organization or the industry in general can take that person. That's a great way to look at one's career progression, definitely. Yes.
Prachi, there are 2 very interesting questions in the chat as well. So
yeah.
Whenever
you want to read them out? Yeah, please go ahead.
So there is one question which is directly for Chirag, and which is asking that, when you say hands-on Scrum Master, what do you mean? Is this, does that mean that Scrum Master should be able to do technical stuff, coding and all, merging, deployment stuff kind of thing, or into tech lead kind of role? Even if like for part-time, what are you expecting when you say a hands-on Scrum Master?
Sure. No, I think a great question and probably worth diving into, right? So when we actually say a hands-on Scrum Master, it doesn't mean you should have written code, right? Or you're expected to write code. Not at all, right? Hands-on Scrum Master actually means you are able to set up your Jira boards. You're able to set up, what matrices you need to track, right? How do you report on those matrices? How do you track those KPIs? How do you escalate? How do you get issues out of the way, right? So rather than just when you surface issues, can you really jump onto them and resolve them for the team, right? So that the team is actually not distracted and they can do their core story work while you say, all right, leave all distractions to me, right? Whether it's a tech issue or whether it's a team issue or it's a landscape issue, it's an infrastructure issue. Scrum Master is really supposed to be all-rounded from that lens, right? I think the second bit, very specific to technical, even though you're not expected to have a tech background, right? And no technology, write code yourself, but you should have a very good knowledge of how the tech industry is evolving, right? So as a Scrum Master on my team, I should be able to push, say, test-driven development versus behavioral-driven development, right? I should at least understand what is TDD, what is BDD, what are the pros and cons of both of them, which one makes sense, and of course, work with the tech team closely and ensure it happens, right? So if I were to summarize, it's the ability to promote good engineering practices, right? That's what defines a good Scrum Master to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I just can't help myself but adding a line to what Chirag said, completely agree. So it's, for example, take a realistic scenario that the stand-up is happening and let's say the developer and the quality analysts are talking about, hey, what, the API request failed and around some technical things, right? Now, as a Scrum Master, how would you be successful in your role? One, if you're able to understand what that issue is, not by solving it, but then, by understanding the jargon or the discussion that is happening and not somebody paraphrasing it for you. Number one. Number two, then how would you remove that impediment, right? So to that level of understanding, obviously some insights into the technical world is required, but then you don't need to be writing code for that matter into it.
Yeah. It's about getting truly integrated in all the aspects and day-to-day action that is happening at team level. And to that extent, probably earning that trust, in respect and connect of the team on all the fronts, not getting left out, in the process.
And probably it helps you in prioritization as well. There might be 5 different issues. If you understand the severity of each yourself and not by others paraphrasing it to you, then you will become a successful Scrum Master.
That's so true.
Yeah, and I think just to add to what Rahul said, the Scrum Master can really bring in his or her own experiences by coaching other teams. That's the most important valuable asset, right? Because the team may be working on, they may be the first tech team or whatever. They work maybe on a few teams. The Scrum Master may be coaching multiple teams in parallel, or would have certainly coached teams in the past, even if the person's focusing on one team. The experiences can really come into play, right? How did some of the teams resolve some of those impediments, right? When they run into, say they never had a CI/CD pipeline and struggled to, be ready just in time for demand, right? Typical tech scenario. They're not expected to debug code or go through the DevOps pipeline and say, hey, this was the issue, I fixed it, right? Yeah, you needed more servers. They're actually supposed to share experiences, share examples from the other teams they've coached and how they've resolved those scenarios, right? Give them pointers so they can go back and investigate more.
I think there is.
So if I can add something,
Hrishikesh, exactly.
So what I wanted to add is, right, so while the ideal world says that the Scrum Master need not know this and need not know that and so on, I think from the field, right, because I talk to so many customers, on a day in and day out, we see huge demand for Java Scrum Masters and .NET Scrum Masters and so on of such, right? And it is, right, we can debate for hours whether it is right or wrong, right? But we have to understand customers are at a certain level of maturity, right? We cannot assume that all of the customers are like ThoughtWorks or Amazons, that they understand everything and they're right. They are at various levels of agility. And if you want to start in the Scrum Master journey, you need to start somewhere, right? So if you want, so for many of the folks, you might not land your first job at Amazon or ThoughtWorks. You could land up in some bank which does Agile in a certain way, right? And then they would expect you to know Java. And then of course, with your Scrum Master and Agile coaching skill, you might teach them good Agile and then grow in it. But I think at least because this is a hiring discussion, right? I just wanted to call out that point. It is important that you don't lose that, that knack of technology, because it will be needed on the ground, especially in India. If you are based out of Belgium or Europe somewhere, it is less important probably, because the culture there works different. But when you are based out of India, it is going to be needed.
Yeah. I was going to come to that point, Hrishikesh. Thanks for this insight. Although the next area I wanted to touch upon, and I think there are a couple of questions related to that theme in the chat as well. So what's the difference that we see when we hire people for Indian subcontinent versus rest of the world in terms of particular need of skills there? So there is a question in the chat as to, for example, culturally, is break in the career or variety of career or sabbaticals, is it considered to be something that pulls you down ultimately? So what are the other differences that you see in hiring for India versus rest of the world?
Yeah, maybe I can start and other folks can add in, right? So like I was saying, with India, I think team sizes are bigger in India, right? So let's first understand what the difference is, right? And most likely team sizes are bigger. Most of the development or the Scrum teams are actually located in India. That's the other aspect, right? And Scrum Masters, of course, makes sense to have them where most of the team is, right? At least in terms of time zone, for them to have a healthy overlap, right? So the skills here are needed. That's why more hands-on, right? So and ability to resolve impediments, work with the team during the India hours, right? So that they're not really waiting on somebody, US waking up and having those daily stand-ups to be able to flag issues, right? Then you really don't have the right leadership set up in India if you're waiting to do that, right? Of course, any business clarifications needed, and I'm talking consulting example right now. Any business clarifications needed from the clients, probably a product owner working from the client side onshore, of course, that makes absolute sense, right? But even for those, we want some amount of business expertise to be built in India, right? We call them pseudo product owners or business analysts, whatever you want to call them. But the idea is to have as much expertise, both in terms of Scrum as well as on the business side, so that the India team can function smoothly during the day, right? And there's no productivity loss. There is good guidance. There's good hands-on coaching and mentoring during the daytime. So the evening calls are actually used for resolving dependencies and other kind of things. Then how did the day go and why did this not happen, etc. So we really want the teams to be set up with the right set of skills in India, and scale is of course important, right? So everybody kind of knows SAFe, right? You have 5 to 12 Scrum teams, 100+ people working on a agile release train. How do you manage that kind of a scale, right? Can you run the SOS in a way that it's constructive for everybody who's joining, right? The cadence is set, the time is, you of course have limited time with such an audience, right? So that's the other aspect, that can you handle scale apart from complexity.
Yeah. Thanks for answering that, Chirag. So we have probably just 10 more minutes left. There are a couple of more aspects that I want to touch upon. And Raj, maybe we can start with you, So especially in last 1 year of COVID, are there certain skills and competencies of remote working, virtual working that, you had to grow your people and consultants on? And why I'm asking is coaching virtually, you're missing out on an important dimension of people connect, that body language, and how is it that you are getting through the day. So especially in this remote and virtual coaching dimension, were there particular things that, one paid more attention to while hiring people?
Absolutely. I think I'll also answer the last two questions also. I think the questions are really good. So as a Scrum Master, technical or not technical, right? I think I'm 100% aligned that we all grow into this role, right? When we started, I just was fresh graduate, didn't have development experience, but I grew into it. When I apply the specific methodology or processes, we all learn and just apply it, right? So as far as the skills are concerned, as a Scrum Master, technical or non-technical, my thought would be that individually we should be of really growth mindset, and we should mean it. That we are also willing to adapt as we are requesting other people to adapt, because they see the integrity, they see that are you really authentic or not, right? That's one piece. Coming back to your second very good question is, in terms of the difference, definitely when you are in a room, you're seeing the body language. Yeah. Externally, you may or may not, sometimes people keep their video on and not. My thought is that as an organization lead or as a Scrum Master or a change agent or a team member, I think what it is that, are you building that relationship? Because you have hired the right person actually for the job. Yeah. If you have a proper career path tracking for that person, my request would be that become more personable to people, and creating that healthy psychological safety and healthy environment, irrespective of what role you are playing, is very critical. Learning about people's environment in terms of their tools and their spaces, and have everything what they need. So what my request is in US or Europe or India, any places, I think the needs are same is, hey, ask people what do they need to be successful from their home. Their time, be like extra sensitive. Let's have more perspectives, not only just perspective, and always show empathy to them. That probably will be my request for that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Raj. So we'd like to move to last couple of aspects of today's discussion. And again, let's hear from all the panelists quickly on that front. So one part is talent acquisition and the other one is talent development, right? So if we take area of Scrum Masters, Agile Coach, Enterprise Coach, and product, for example, what are the skills that you would like to develop in people once you hire them, at least on the Agile coaching and product side?
So if I can answer this first, Prachi. So when we are hiring people now, right? First of all, though we hire people with these roles of Scrum Master, Agile Coach, or some, my recommendation now to many of the leaders is not to go by that, right? Is to actually hire people for the skills. Example, I do not see that person today is working as an Agile coach, but right, he or she may want to move out and become an engagement manager tomorrow. So they will need to have that skill, right? We don't want, because see, as an industry also, we will not have the growth path for everybody to just become a Scrum Master, Agile coach, enterprise Agile coach. It is not going to happen, right? And then we don't want to give people that false sense of thing, right? So I think it is important that when you are hiring people, that part is clear, as well as you are building those additional skills that may be needed for mobility. Example, in a services company like Capgemini, right? Maybe for a year, you could be doing a great Agile coaching role. Next year, you want to grow and you might not find the right opportunity in the same location and with the other constraints that you may have, but you still want to grow your career. Don't want to just leave a company and everything else because you're not getting a specific role title, right? And so that is where, at least when we are building capability, we are not looking at building Agile coaches. We are looking at building Agile skills, which means my project managers, my Agile coaches, everybody should have good product development skills, good Agile skills. That is what we are aiming for.
Yeah. So I have a follow-on question on that, Hrishikesh. Is it hard to say that, there is vertical growth is a very, very typical Indian thing. And with this, we are saying there has to be skill variety. There has to be your own adaptability to situations and projects. So how do you sell this to people that, you have to give up your ambition of growing vertically? All of us can't make it to the top.
No, so the thing is, I would not say it is just always vertical growth, right? Everybody, there is this famous saying that everybody grows to the level of their competency or incompetence rather, right? So for a person who is, an Agile coach, will want to aspire to be an enterprise agile coach, it may not be necessarily related to their vertical growth, right? But they want to do better things, they want to do bigger things, and so on. So they have to have this option, but those opportunities are not going to be there. Example, I'll tell you, I am currently leading the entire Agile initiative at Capgemini India. Now, do you think I should aspire for vertical growth? My boss is the CEO of India, a COO of India.
Yeah.
So it is not easy. You will have to have the ability after a certain level to be able to move laterally into different roles, do different things, right? And wherever example I will go, I will still be an agile coach at the heart, right? Yeah. I will still do and operate in an agile way. I think that is what everybody at every level needs to start to understand, right? Yeah. Agile is not a role, it is more of a skill and a mindset, as Raj was earlier saying. You can use it in each and everything. And that is what I think the culture, at least at Capgemini, we are trying to more and more imbibe. Right? Don't get tied with this role.
Yes, that's a great point for all the listeners here right now as to in which direction they want to grow and invest in their skills. So I heard a lot of nods. I saw a lot of nods from Raj and Rahul when Hrishikesh was talking. So I'll let you guys probably share your thoughts here.
Yeah, I think absolutely on this part that it's not vertical growth. I mean, we have this mindset that growth is only vertical, right? Growth is how can you live in the SUKA world, right? Growth is how can you embrace more ambiguities and grow, right? Yeah, one more thing, probably which is a different on the question that you asked, Prachi. Especially post the COVID, the roles that you talked about, agile coaches or product owners, etc. Collaboration is the key to success, right? And pre-COVID times, pre-pandemic, we always used to equate co-location to collaboration. It's the most important factor, right? But the pandemic has thrown it out of the gear. So still collaboration is required, be it virtual. Now, how can agile coaches, or in fact any role for that matter, embrace virtual tools that can be operated virtually? For example, Mural, even Jira, right? Jira in the last decade it's come up really well, but how can you add these tools, knowledge of these tools, and how to utilize these tools in creating that aura of collaboration that will lead to the success of your roles? I think that has become a very critical parameter that every professional should add to his or her arsenal.
Great, thanks. Vinaya, if you want to talk about some progression for product side, since you represent the product side, on a similar question,
Sure, I can do that. And I would like to specifically talk about the Scrum Master kind of role. So since we don't do Scrum, we don't really have that role. We call individuals who do similar things flow wizards, which we really love. We love the term, we love the title. So our flow wizards go on to become, it depends on what are the skill sets that they enjoy practicing the most. What are the attributes that will help them in the next role that they choose to play the most? So we have flow wizards career path going in 3 or 4 different directions. Some of them do choose to be agile coaches because that's what they're passionate about, and they find through their experience as flow wizards that that's what they're passionate about. But there are many who go on to lead teams. As team leads, they have people management responsibilities, enabling their teams to do better, etc. So they choose to play those roles. Some of them move on to become product owners. So as they work with their teams, they get deeper and deeper into the domain. Many of them are coming from a tech background or a product background, and they find that they'll really enjoy creating the next thing that the team should be passionate about and going after. So many of them choose to be product owners. So many of these career paths open up for them, and the skills and the attributes that they exercise as flow wizards are useful in many of these roles. So I don't see it as a linear sort of career path that, every Scrum Master becomes an Agile coach, every Agile coach becomes an enterprise Agile coach. So many of them are choosing to do very, very different things. And absolutely, agreeing with what many of the panelists said before, it's not about vertical growth anymore in general, right? I think there are so many opportunities for horizontal growth, and there's such exciting opportunities. I can't imagine that, that's going to be a restriction anymore. Yes, there are aspirations in terms of, what's your take home package and things like that. And those don't have to be so closely associated with vertical growth.
Yeah. Great. Yes. I think with that, we might have to proceed towards the end of this discussion. Deepti, are there any last couple of questions that we want to take, or however we want to close this?
There are a lot of questions, actually. I was just waiting for you, to give me an opportunity. I didn't want to interrupt. So the thing is, first of all, we are at the end of our time box, but what we can do is we can still take a few more minutes, Prachi, because the next session is done by both of us, and probably we'll cut time there. Amazing conversation going on, totally loving it, and don't want to interrupt. But now I want to put forward the questions which has come in the chat. So Prachi, can I go ahead and put out the questions?
Please do that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the first question is about how to progress after a job break. And then the related question on the same line is how to move from a non-agile role to an agile role. For example, you are a developer or a tester, how you can become a Scrum Master. If you are a BA, or even if you are a tester or a UX guy, how to become a product owner. That is one question. Okay, so these are two questions. One, of course, how to get a job after break. Two, how to progress into an agile role. Third, because all of them are in the same line. So the third one is how to get your first gig when you are from a non-technical background, how to get your first gig as a Scrum Master. Now, these are the three questions, and I will, keep it open to you, because all of you must have tackled these kind of situation in the organization and in the circle. So who has seen this very closely, and who can do the help here to us?
If I could just get a quick comment in, and I don't want to give a lengthy answer, very short. I think we should also expect our organizations to create the right environment and enablement for this kind of mobility, right? For people who've taken a break from their careers to come back, for people to move into horizontal roles which are not closely associated with what they've been doing. So internal mobility programs, returning, for example, we had a returning women program, right? Women who had taken long breaks from their careers. So these sorts of things, I think a lot of responsibility must lie, and we must expect our organizations to have the sense of social responsibility to create these right channels and opportunities. And many organizations are doing a wonderful job of it. So I would say, one, look for that. So there are opportunities out there. And second is, I think a lot of hiring now happens through referrals. So work that LinkedIn network and, make sure that you're reaching out to people. And I don't think you need to be very reticent about it. Tell people you're looking for a job. This is what you're ready to do. And this is the skill set you bring. And these are the attributes that you shine at. And reach out to that network, and, the network will work for you.
Thank you.
If I can add a little bit on this.
Yes, I was.
So the thing is, I mean, you talked about, so I will answer the question on the mobility, right? I mean, you aspire to be a Scrum Master or a product owner, right? That kind of role, but currently you are not in that, right? So how do I move into that, right? I think the best advice that I would give in this manner is the easiest place to move is internally. If you are already part of certain organization, right? And that is what we encourage our people, right? Go to, example, e-learning, get yourself nominated to certain training courses. So get the right skills, first of all. We operate, at least in Capgemini, with a lot of internal meetups and those kind of forums. So start attending those forums so that you will know people, as Vinaya mentioned, that you will know those people, know who is hiring in that space. And then I would say internally is the best shot, because you know the people, you know the organization, right? You can use some networks and then land up your first gig. And then, of course, when you are growing in that, you can decide to either stay or go, right? Whatever. But I think the moving, right? What I advise people against is just doing a certain, and I will call it out, is just doing a certain Scrum Master certification and then suddenly going all over the place, applying for jobs. At least we are rejecting all of those, to be very, very clearly, right? Looking for people with hands-on experience, right? At least some of it.
Just wanted to add a little bit on the career break side because we deal with it a lot of times. My first advice to any such person is do a self introspection, do a SWOT analysis, because the time you left the industry to the time now when you are planning to rejoin the industry, how has the industry moved? What were your skills then and what are the skills required? Probably in the same role, same space as you were working earlier, because it's easier to correlate. Do that self SWOT analysis first. And once you do that, then you are able, you will have to go in for some levels of reskilling, right? Either enhancing your skills that you had earlier or learning new skills because the industry has moved on. To Vinaya's point also, yes, nowadays you will find organizations doing a lot of programs like this. In ThoughtWorks also, we have a program called WAPSI, which is for women who had to take career breaks. And what we help with women there is there's a complete, I mean, it's process oriented. It's not that you'll just get into WAPSI or any such programs just because people need to fill in those spaces, but because there is a proper interaction process also for it. So you need to be prepared first with what gaps you have and how would you fulfill those gaps. Such programs are one way of doing it. The other part is definitely the learnings. The Udemy, Khan Academy, you name and you have it there to upgrade your skills. It's just that your self-willingness has to be there. So what I've seen is the first and foremost thing that you have to change is your thinking and your mindset that I will do it, I will be able to do it. There are opportunities there in the industry for it.
Makes sense, absolutely. So,
may I just,
yeah, please, Raj. Yeah.
May I just add one more thing? Pretty much aligned actually with Vinay, Rahul, and Hrishikesh. Do what you want to do. So you're clear in your mind. You're just not landing, oh, I'm taking a break. Scrum Master seems like an easy way to get in. Let me just get a CSM or PSM and all of those certifications. And now I can say, I can do it. And the point is, may or may not be, we don't know, right? And people may or may not take you just because of those certifications. I think the card I have always learned, which is to